Welcome all. Pleased to have you here today. My name is Aaron Leader. I serve the partnerships team here at Pavilion. And today we're discussing gamification and some ideas around how we're going to set up remote teams or in-person teams for success coming into 2022. Thrilled to have a panel here together today, and would like to kick it off first to Dan Rousseau. Dan, where are you calling in from? What company do you work at? What is your function? And a little bit around why you are here today. Would love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. First of all, thanks for having me. Appreciate being here and appreciate the opportunity. So I'm calling in from lovely Manchester, New Hampshire. Work for a company called Sitecore. We're a market leader in the customer experience. Really looking forward to kind of having a conversation around gamification, how we're leveraging it to bring together our distributed teams. Our SDR team is broken up globally. So we have a group of SDRs here in North America split between Manchester and Dallas. And then we have a team in EMEA that's based out of London, and then a distributed team in APJ in Singapore, Japan, and Australia. So really looking forward to kind of carrying the conversation around how we're using gamification to bring some of those teams together, create a little bit of community in a distributed workplace. So looking forward to the conversation and get to know everybody.
Thanks so much. And Dana Mirabella, can you please share where you're coming in from?
Yep, I'm Dana Mirabella. I'm coming from Long Island, New York, in our new home office. I run the global customer success team for SalesScreen, and SalesScreen is a gamification platform. The way that I think about it and how we support our customers globally is we help them really solve three main issues around visualization, gamifying their process, and then also motivating and creating a culture of recognition for our customers. So I'm really excited to be here. And
thanks so much. And last, Matt Payne, in addition to who you are and where you're coming from, could you level set a little bit for us in terms of your definition of gamification and what you're learning from your customers?
Yeah, for sure. Psyched to be here. Thanks for everybody for joining. Some of you have cameras on too, which is always kind of nice and interacting. The first time doing a webinar with everybody's video that's included. So I love that. We're all real people. So it's nice. From a SalesScreen perspective, I'm our VP of sales here in the US. So I lead sales for our US market here, and spend my days talking to sales leaders. So people just like yourselves, talking about the pains that they're dealing with, struggles that they're dealing with, the exciting things that they have going on. Sometimes it's like a event session, with sales leaders. But for today, just want to quickly level set the concept of gamification, at least from our perspective, for some context around how you apply gamification to solve some of the problems that we're all facing heading into next year. And I think one of the ways to think about it is gamification is simply just adding game-like elements to our everyday lives. All of the things we're asking our reps to do, we simply just make it more fun and add a game-like twist to it. So think like competitions and leaderboards and spiffs. Those are probably the most familiar things that you think of when it comes to gamification, and that's certainly part of it. And it's a great extrinsic motivating part of gamification for you to think about. But in the context today, I'd also like you to think a little bit deeper of some other traditional game-like elements that are sometimes more intrinsic. Think like celebrating the activities that you're asking people to do, and celebrating milestone achievements. When people are badges that could get unlocked for booking the most meetings in the month, or hitting quota 3 months in a row, or breaking a new personal record, like things that drive us internally, or being competitive with reps and having battles with each other and allowing reps to be competitive, or endorsing good behavior. A lot of sales leaders are trying to up-level talent and cultivate winning behaviors inside of their organization. So endorsing good behavior and recognizing performance along the way. So there are a lot of different ways to think about gamification beyond just traditional competitions. And a lot of it is a cross between the extrinsic stuff, which is super common, and then also the intrinsic stuff, because not everybody's motivated in the same way. So just want to kind of frame that up for you all to think about. And then, lastly, there's a reason why gamification is gaining a lot of popularity, and people are starting to think about why it actually works. And what's important to think about is that there's a chemical reaction. It lights up our brains, and it's really incredible. I mean, dopamine is the happy chemical, right? And that's what is released when we are working toward receiving a reward. Or oxytocin is released when we work together. It's the trust and love hormone. And so as teams are working together to complete tasks or hit targets, hormones are released and endorphins are released as we work hard to complete a task or hit a target. Feeling like a sense of accomplishment, it boosts our mood and it relieves stress. Although I will say there's often a lot of stress heading toward, completing that target, but actually hitting that target and beating that target, we feel it. We're all salespeople, we feel it. It releases a stress reliever, and it completely changes our moods. My wife will agree with that too. And serotonin's released. It makes us feel proud and important and wanted when we unlock badges for things that are difficult to achieve, and gain points and accumulate points and rewards. It alters our mood, and it's real. That is part of our everyday life, and that's why gamification works. And I'll stop there. I think that's just to frame it for you all. There's a reason why gamification is important. It's often involved in our lives in the first place. And as we all look into next year and talk through some of the struggles and challenges we all have, keep that in mind.
Thanks so much. Fascinating stuff. The graphic helps, so appreciate that. First question for Dan, from the point of view of a sales leader, what are main areas that you're focused on conquering in 2022?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So first of all, I didn't realize when we were going through the sales process with SalesScreen, there were so much biological elements that I was unaware of. So that's great to hear. But for me, I should have said when I introduced myself, my role here is I'm the global vice president of sales development. So my team is responsible for kind of being on the front lines of selling Sitecore, right? We're out there making cold calls, sending emails. Probably the people that are in a lot of your email inboxes bugging you. That's what my team's doing, right? And we're generating a ton of pipeline for the company. And everybody, when you talk to them, when you talk about SDR, the first thing they always say is, "Oh gosh, that's a difficult job. That's the most difficult job you'll ever have," right? And I do believe that, but I also believe there's things you can do to make the job easier, to make the job more enjoyable, to have some fun with it. And in this new kind of distributed workplace we all work in, that isolation can make this difficult job sometimes even more difficult, right? You don't have peers to commiserate with, you don't have peers to celebrate success with, right? You're kind of doing your own thing. And those little problems can sometimes start to feel a little bit bigger when you don't have people to bounce things off of and you're not celebrating those little successes. So for me, gamification, we're looking to use it as a tool to bring their teams together under one roof, to create a sense of community, to celebrate successes, both big successes, right, our big goals, but also all of the little things that go into getting to those big goals. I also mentioned that we have a global team, right? And being that we have that global team, there's a lot of really great things going on in APJ or in EMEA that the team in the Americas might not see, right? So we're looking to use gamification as a way to kind of break down some of those silos and use it as a mechanism to turn all of the great things that we're doing into global successes, right? So the reps in America, if somebody's lighting up the leaderboard in EMEA, it's going to cause them to ask questions about, what are they doing? How are they doing that, right? So again, sense of community and culture and building that in this new workplace that we all have is really paramount to me going into this year. And then tracking KPIs, right? Those KPIs that we're all monitoring our teams by are, leading indicators of successes, failures, problems in the moment, what needs to be fixed. But oftentimes, at least for me, maybe this is me telling myself, but for me, like monitoring those goals can sometimes seem like a burden. And to the reps, especially when they're at home, can kind of feel like they're being micromanaged a little bit, right? So we're looking to use gamification and bringing those KPIs to the forefront through, like Matt said, through a platform that is fun, that is engaging, that the reps want to see their KPIs through. We're looking at kind of up level the team and again, foster that sense of fun, collaboration, and community.
Love that. Thanks. So we would love to get a vibe from the room. Launching a quick poll here. We'll give everybody a couple minutes. This is multiple choice, so you can select more than one. But the main idea here is thinking of which are the pain points everyone is trying to conquer this year. All of the above is out to the early lead. We're seeing strong response, boosting productivity and performance. Those seem to be the top two. Productivity and performance. All of the above would include building culture remotely, keeping track of KPIs, and training and coaching and adoption. But yeah, it seems like most folks are leaning towards productivity or the whole kit and caboodle. Let's see, we'll let a couple more go in. If you haven't done it in 53 seconds, you're out. And this is a game. This is a challenge to you. Participant number 29. Can you do it? Yes. All right, great. 1 minute. So yeah, the leader was all of the above and boosting productivity. There's the results for everyone. And good to have in mind like how everyone is feeling, different parts of the world and different size companies. These are the challenges we're facing right now. Dana, I'm curious what you're seeing with your customers. So SalesScreen is out there and providing this sort of solution. What are people looking for most when you're working with them?
Yeah, I think similar to everybody in this room, they're looking for a solve for almost everything, which I totally get. Like as a leader, whether you're a global leader or you have a domestic team, or even if you're an IC on this call, you always have so much going on and it's hard to think about how you're going to solve it in a way that seems like digestible and is going to move the needle in the way you need to. And I think for most of our customer base, when they're thinking about gamification and just all of the tasks ahead of them, especially as they think about conquering a new year, it's looking for that common thread, right? Like, how can I do one thing as a leader or even as an individual contributor that's going to almost cause a domino effect and really have an impact on almost everything that you do? So when we think about like that keeping you up at night list and all of the items that are on there, like how great would it be to take 1 or 2 action items and check multiple things off that list, right? Kind of that all of the above option kind of gets enhanced or you get creative with it. So for me, when I'm thinking about our customer conversations or even my own team going into next year, the executive team is asking me about, the bottom line results in most of our cases, right? Whether it's sales or it's renewals or it's expansions, depending on the role that you may have. So what is like one thing that can really stick out is hard when you're looking at that, end result. So thinking about how you're going to break it out and really come up with the activities or the action items that you can take that will then tell the story of how you impacted the bottom line is what really drives the needle for most of our customers. So to break it down a little bit, we think about it as visualizing and tracking the activities that will then impact that line. And I'm sure for any of the managers on the call, there's so many tools that you can use. Maybe one piece of your sales process lives here and another piece of your sales process lives here, and you have a million tabs and a million screens coming up. And how great would it be to tie it all together? And that's something that we really focus on with our customer base, is getting some dashboards or reports that help you see your sales process so that you can then take action. And taking action could be so many different ways. And when we think about gamification, it's kind of a fun way, right? Maybe your team doesn't really know all the things that you're gamifying to make them kind of do that bottom line activity or drive that bottom line activity that you're looking for. So we think about it as like coaching and training, right? So when you see that sales process and what every individual on your team is doing, or again, if you're your own individual contributor, you can start to see where some of the gaps in your process are living through that dashboard. And then as a manager, you can decide to coach one-on-one that individual. Hey, I noticed that between like calls and meetings, there's a drop off, or you did a ton of demos this week, but I'm not seeing a ton of opportunities created. How can I help you there? Like, do you have a call recording that we can listen to? Like, give me your demo. Are you setting up next steps? So it really becomes this individualized way for you to look at that process for each member on your team and try to pinpoint where you can coach them. And then that person feels like you're invested in them, right? And that's like what I see, even what I want, right? As a leader, like I want to know that my career is invested in and that I'm growing and learning and developing. And like, that kind of gets me going, makes me feel motivated to do better next time. So my next one-on-one, I could come back and say, hey, that pointer that you gave me, I did it. And here's how it impacted the bottom line. I think then those feelings of like, to Matt's point, like you're positive, you have this like, chemical reaction in your brain where you feel happy and you want to do more, you can put that on steroids with gamification, right? So your one-on-ones can be that individual coaching. Now you give people a sense of team or competitiveness around driving that result for you. So now in your next one-on-one, when you go to your leader, you could say, hey, I visualized the data, I coach this individual, here's the results. And then I also took that momentum and did a team competition or encouraged them to battle one another. And it led to this increase in activities, which will lead to this increase in my bottom line result. So I think breaking it down is something that we really focus on a lot with our customers. And that impact not only happens within your results, whatever that metric may be that you're looking for, but your team will feel invested in them. And we have seen like a really big boost culturally around that as well, right? Like a positive team leads better results. And we're all thinking about that. I think it's really hard too, to think about how to drive that as a leader when you're focused on results. And this kind of gives you some steps to do that. It's something that we've talked to Dan a lot about, as he is one of our customers. So I would love, Dan, if you could just add some commentary on how some of these aspects of gamification have helped you build a culture that's a little bit more positive, or how you think about the momentum that you're driving in the culture of the team.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because we're in the early days, right? We're getting up and running with SalesScreen, but we're already starting to see some really quick wins, which has been really exciting to see. And a lot of it is kind of bringing to light the fact that we potentially weren't doing recognition as well as we could have been before, right? It's really difficult to manage multiple competitions. It's really difficult to come up with the prizes. It's really difficult to fulfill the prizes. So just those little things that I didn't necessarily consider being victories are already starting to take shape. But I also think just as far as the recognition and the motivation piece goes, sometimes we get, like you talked about a little bit, Dana, we get so caught up in like the bottom line and the ultimate goal that we don't take the time to look at all of the elements, all of the ingredients that go into making that end result. And I think in the world that I live in, and really I think all sales in general, it's really powerful to recognize those things and to do it on a consistent, like almost daily basis, right? And gamification allows you to do that, I think, in like a very transparent, in your face kind of way, but it's also very fun and engaging and motivating. And we, like I said, we're already finding that, right? Reps are scrambling to create their celebration videos, right? Like that, when their celebration pops on the TV screen, they want to have like, the funniest or the coolest or the loudest videos. They're already creating battles against one another, right? Like when we hire people, we look for people that are competitive. We look for people that are curious, and this allows them to bring that spirit out and to do it in a really meaningful, measured way. And another thing that I didn't necessarily consider when we were going through the selection process and the implementation process is the social element of it. There's the feed where you can go on and you can like something and you can comment on something and you can put a GIF. Like a lot of the stuff that we do every day outside of work, when we're on our phone, on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is, the reps are taking to that, and they're really kind of loving it. Is what I'm seeing from afar in taking advantage of that social feed. And I really do think that rising tide lifts all the ships when it comes to the output, right? People are motivated, they're excited, they're fulfilled, right? And like I said, all of that kind of like hard stuff that they have to do every day, I think becomes a little less burdensome. And then one other, I think, kind of creative, unique way that we're thinking about gamification using it is on an intranet page that we're building out. So we're creating a refreshed, revitalized intranet here at Sitecore, and we wanted to kind of create something that wasn't just static words on a page. Hey, read this blog, or read this article. We're actually going to be taking some of the leaderboards and dashboards and contests that we're running through SalesScreen, and we're going to be displaying them in our intranet, so that when people come to those pages, it's a little bit more interactive, a little bit more exciting. That things are changing every single day. And then lastly, in doing that through the intranet, but also by having SalesScreen leaderboards and dashboards up on every monitor in every office that we have, we're bringing to light a lot of the great work that the team is doing, right? Especially in the SDR world. Like sometimes you can kind of feel like you're operating behind the curtain, so to speak. And, a lot of the phone calls and the emails and the small victories that you're having don't get seen. So we're now able to bring to light, all the, something as simple as a meeting booked, or a meeting held, or, an opportunity when it gets created. We're able to celebrate those things and bring them to the light of day, so that everybody within the organization can see all the great things that the team is doing on a daily basis. And I think that's really powerful for any sales organization.
Yeah, Dan, I mean, I love what you're talking about. I love you all as an early customer of ours and seeing kind of the excitement that comes out. But just in general, I mean, what you're describing, we're a webcast here of all sales leaders. I mean, what sales leader doesn't want to create an atmosphere inside of their company that people love and want to be a part of? That's what we're all driving for, right? And the idea of adding gamification into the mix supports all of that organically. It wasn't a big surprise that you all voted in the poll that increasing productivity and all of the above were the top two answers, right? Like that was essentially a rhetorical poll that we put out there for you all, because I mean, at the end of the day, we're all sales leaders and we have to improve productivity and revenue generating activities. But the reality is the atmosphere we create around that situation all contributes to driving that sort of revenue and activity growth, right? And the thing that Dan pointed out one of the other things that Dan pointed out that I love is kind of the idea of raising awareness about traditional KPIs and metrics that sometimes get swept under the rug or are difficult to do, but you have to do, and nobody celebrates it. Like nobody like acknowledges it. You just have to do it. And it's like, just go do your job and like, tell me when you close a deal, or tell me when you create an opportunity. And that kind of sucks for everybody, right? That's not a great atmosphere, but there's a lot of work that we all have to do in order to be successful in our jobs. And the approach with gamification, and the thing that Dan is starting to talk about, is let people highlight the small wins along the way, the winning behaviors that you as sales leaders are trying to cultivate inside the organization, like using video in your prospecting efforts or even in your closing efforts, and celebrating when people use video, or when you book a meeting that came from a video outreach rather than a cold email outreach. Like those are things that are worth acknowledging, because I forgot the analogy you just used, Dan, but it's something about the tide elevating all the ships. But it's that idea is when you start to celebrate the things that are going to make people more successful, more people will do it. And that's when you really start to elevate the pack inside your organization.
Love that. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Dan. I'm thinking, so for Dana, rather than like front of the house in terms of opening new opportunities in your world in taking care of your existing customers or looking to grow those accounts, how does career development play when you look at your team and how you gamify conquering 2022?
Yeah, it's a big thing that I think so many leaders struggle with. And I'm sure you have done an employee voice survey at some point in your career. And I think most of us have seen the scores like, I want more feedback and development. You're like, what? That's what I'm doing every day in your one-on-ones. And you feel like it's happening organically, but sometimes you like really have to call it out to your team. And I love this question because I think we are at such a pivotal point of the year for like you as a leader, but also for your teams as you think about what the end of the year has done, right? Like you're looking at your results to think it's already the end of the year is crazy to me, but we're looking at our end of the year results thinking like, hey, did we hit the mark? Did we say what we were going to do? Who hit target? Who didn't hit target? Where did my team perform? Where did my team not perform? What am I going to do to make it better next year? And then on top of that, your team is going to start to do their own performance evaluations where they're going to have that same internal dialogue and be thinking about what they want next and where they want to grow. So you kind of have this like really great opportunity to marry those two together. And believe it or not, you can actually gamify that process as well and make it more fun and call it out as actual career development. So I know some of you are probably thinking like, no way, how am I going to do this? But think about all like the competitiveness that follows your teams today in their personal lives, right? Like Peloton bikes and Apple Watches, like trying to track their steps. And for those of you who like play Candy Crush or games to kind of take that brain break where you're like, what level am I up to? And how am I going to get to the next one? And, do I have 5 minutes to do it really quickly now? Right. That like kind of comparing yourself and making improvements is happening already organically in their life. So why not kind of turn some of that like passion about gaming and being better and taking that 1,000 class into their careers? So I think, when you think about this, there's a couple of ways that you can kind of gamify this approach to coaching. So the first is for you as a leader, what you want your team to do a better job of, right? And everyone has that, right? Whether you missed the mark or you exceeded the mark and now your executive team is putting that 20% increase on you, like how are you going to get there? Team competitions is something that I think is overlooked sometimes, right? If you want your team to do something, put them in a multiple target competition, right? Where if they hit 100, they get a prize as a team. If they hit 200, they get a prize as a team, and then make a real big stretch, right? At the end of the quarter, I know we're being remote, but like send them like a cheese class with a wine pairing to their houses, right? Or if you can get together, like sometimes the team is craving that in-person togetherness as well. And again, it's a team goal. So they're all kind of, egging each other on in a positive way to hit that mark. And that's a really great way for you to kind of gamify as a manager what you want your team to kind of do a better job of. The second is through endorsements and celebrations of individuals when they do something that you're coaching them on, right? I think sometimes that's the part that's missing, right? You feel like in the one-on-one, you've had this conversation, you've coached them through it. Maybe you sit in on their next call and you say like, great job. But sometimes that's not enough, right? To Matt's point, like everyone's brain works a little differently. And sometimes people want a little bit more of a public recognition, right? Than just a high five in their one-on-one. So those endorsements or celebrations, like help your team to celebrate the at-bats. And that's so important throughout every quarter of the year, right? They kind of, especially in the beginning of the year, you have these big lofty goals that you're given to them. Like it's important that you break it down for them as well. And, high five them in the one-on-one, but give them that kind of boost that they need so the whole company can see that they've improved as well. And then I think the last thing that I'll say is, capturing some of these like team things as well as the individual things I know can be challenging for sure, but making sure that you as a leader are thinking about, the different tools that you have as well. So there's competitions, there's endorsements. If, you're a SalesScreen customer, you have a reward shop that they can actually pick their own prizes of. But get creative and, we can definitely help you across our customer base. Some of our customers do some really cool things. And I'll give a shout out to my team. They're thinking of some really cool gifts to kind of celebrate our customers as well. So we have some unique ideas there, but I think gamifying it is something that we don't think about all the time. And especially now that it's surrounding everybody in their life, like there's so many cool little things that you can do to drive competition or get that boost of that brain chemical reaction to make your team feel happy.
I think that one of the things for y'all to think about when it comes to gamification, we start to use the word gamification a lot in a lot of different scenarios. Sometimes people have a difficult time, from what I've experienced here, sometimes people have a difficult time kind of bridging the gap between traditional gamification of whoever can close the most deals or whoever can book the most meetings to all of the other things that you all as sales leaders are trying to do to up-level the talent inside of your organization. So wanted to give you a couple examples of what we're seeing other sales leaders do, applying gamification tactics. One of the things that I think is gaining popularity quite a bit amongst our client base is when a sales leader or chief revenue officer has different initiatives that they're trying to push throughout the year. Perfect example for us is our chief revenue officer has made a massive effort to improve the process of our sales team, right? And so there are things like Medic or MedPick could be something that you all are experiencing that is an absolute necessity for a lot of sales teams, or executive alignment. 95% of our deals involve some level of executive alignment at some point in the process. And so sales leaders are now starting to say, how can I raise awareness of whether or not our reps are completing all their medic fields or including executive alignment in their deals? And so you can start to gamify that process where you can create competitions that are based off of getting executive alignment throughout the quarter in all of your deals that are open, or unlocking a badge that at the end of the quarter, if you had 100% medic completion in all of your opportunities, it unlocks a new award for you and you get recognized for that. So the idea is let's push the process. If you are in Dan's role and leading an SDR organization and you are trying to make an investment in Vidyard or Sendoso or some sort of system where you've invested in a platform for your team and they're not adopting it, you could start to gamify the use of that. You can create competitions for who can send out the most personalized videos. You can do celebration videos to raise awareness that people are using them. The one I called out earlier is becoming really popular too, where you call out the source of the meeting. And especially if you've invested in a platform to help you get that, like a gift giving platform or something like that. But the theme there is adoption, right? It's all of you as sales leaders are trying to get your team to adopt something, whether it's just simply entering data in the first place, right? Because salespeople are terrible at entering data in forms. It's like a mental, block that we have. But whether it's getting people to enter data in the forms, whether it's getting them to follow a process, whatever it may be, adoption is one of the massive use cases of gamification, and it trickles down into everything else. Right. So what it does is it starts to allow you to celebrate everything and get an exciting culture. It allows you to visualize whether or not people are doing the things that you ask them to. So KPI awareness becomes a really easy thing when you start to gamify it and track it. And when you combine celebrations and getting excited about the work you're asking people to do, when you combine that with visualizing the activity that you're looking for them to do, so that people can be held accountable. When you pull all of the data into coaching sessions so that you can be a human and actually coach from a personal perspective rather than just like pulling in data sources and wasting a lot of time, all of that together up levels the talent of your whole organization. And when you do that, it boosts productivity and makes everybody more successful as an organization.
And I'd also say, just to piggyback on that, if I can real quick, one of the things that we've seen is as we've started to implement SalesScreen and really get up and running with it, is we've made a conscious decision to crowdsource a lot of the achievements, right? Because it's one thing, all the points you made are fantastic and well received, Matt. But I also think there's the element of the reps that are the boots on the ground, that are the ones making the calls and sending the emails. They have things in their daily life at work where they're like, gosh, I'm doing a lot of this, but it's not necessarily manifesting in the results, but it's important to getting to the result. Dana and I have talked a lot about the small victories along the way. So we found it really beneficial to crowdsource a lot of like the achievements and the badges that we want the reps to tell us, hey, I'd love to get recognized for doing this or for doing that. And now they feel a sense of ownership over that kind of stuff. We're bringing it to light a little bit more than we might have in the past. So for us, like, again, the psychological element of having that ability is something that, we're going to definitely take advantage of as we, get really off and run into the races with SalesScreen and gamification in general.
Yeah, Dan, that's such a really good point about just asking your people what they want, right? Like what motivates them. Do you have the same kind of feeling about the reward shop and the kind of prizes you're giving out?
Absolutely, yeah. As we've started to fill up the reward shop, I love the reward shop because it takes a lot of the thinking away from me, right? When I'm coming up with spiffs or competitions in general, like I spend so much time, and I know my leaders and managers do too. They sit there and go, geez, what's a good prize? Like, what do people want? What are we going to give away here? And, the reward shop allows us to create a place where there's little things that they can collect along the way, or there's big things that we can, we might come up with and throw in there. Or really, we've done a couple competitions already where we've gone and said, what do you want to win? What can we put in here that you actually care about? And we can put that in the reward shop, and we can put a lot of visibility onto it and help people understand how they can actually go and win those different prizes, be it, a day off or a flat screen TV, right? So yeah, the reward shop and what it allows us to do definitely falls in line with what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I love that. I think too, like it's hard when you feel like there's so much going on. Like, how am I going to figure out the right metric or the right competition or the right reward or the right badge for your team? Because you want to gamify the process as a leader. But sometimes it just seems so overwhelming, and going to your team, I think, is so great. And we recommend that all the time. And I think you'll be so surprised what you learn about them. Right. And even sometimes like what you'll see as a manager, like, are they focused on the right things? Do they see those opportunities that they're closing? Or are they so focused on calls where, maybe it's the reverse? Like Dan and I keep talking about the at bats, but sometimes your team gets so focused on the at bats, and those sometimes don't feel like the biggest wins all the time. Where if they then have that insight into, okay, I made 100 calls, those 100 calls led to 5 opportunities. 2 of those opportunities closed, and the organization brought in X amount of revenue. Like having that for them to see and track through, like also really motivates the team. And if they have the opportunity to say, hey, I would love some coaching on how I can get from 2 opportunities to 6 opportunities next quarter, like now as a leader, like, yes, slam dunk, like I could totally do that. Right. And having all that data is awesome. And then you can endorse them for that. Hey, this person came with like a really great recommendation. We're going to work on it. Can't wait to see what you do this year. Here's 100 clients. Like, okay, now they could go into the reward shop. Like it all plays so nicely together with some of these quick little wins that I think we sometimes forget, that like asking our team can lead to such great wins as a leadership team and give you the insights into what they want to see, how they want to kind of play with, with the tools, whether it be a battle or a competition, and then how they want to win. Right. And I think that sometimes is the most interesting thing. Like to Dan's point, when you see someone who wants like the $5 prizes and they'll just cash in $5 after $5. And then you'll see like you may have a hoarder, right, who's like waiting for that big prize, like a spa day or a vacation day or something that's, a million coins. Like that to me is so fun, because now in my one-on-one, I'm saying like, hey, you're 1,000 points away. What are you going for? Like I know you're waiting for something really fun. Like what's in there that really gets you going? And that's also a personal connection that can really go a long way, right? If they say, oh, I love spa, or I'm waiting for these Beats headphones because like my kids at home are so loud, I want to not, drown them out. Like all these things that just kind of open up additional conversations and touch points for you with your team that happen so quickly when you start to tie some of these pieces together.
Love that. Thank you all. And to Matt and Dana, I'm thinking of like how SalesScreen uses SalesScreen. And my question to either or both is there a key metric that you've decided to gamify, which is a little bit outside of bounds of like dials, revenue closed, email sent, something interesting that you'd like to share?
Yeah. Matt, you want me to go or you go?
We may have 2 different perspectives. So,
yeah, we definitely do.
Let's get them both.
Yeah. You first, Dana.
Okay. So for my team, we handle all things post-sale. And one of the things that like ultimately leads to so many results, right? Like renewals and upsells, expansions, is how quickly we're able to get our customers to value. And my team owns onboarding. And I think it's so important, not only for me to like see where the team's at with specific customers, but also for the sales team to know too, right? It can lead to so many different opportunities. Like we gamify it by tracking the process and trying to get a customer to what we've deemed as successful onboarding, meaning like they see value in the platform. They're logging in with all their users in a certain time frame, right? So we're kind of gamifying time. But what it does for us as an organization is helps us to see if that process is much longer, right? Like why? And how can I then, work cross-functionally to make it better? But when it works and that customer is to value in that time frame, it is a huge high five to the CSM team who got them through to that value point. And then when that upsell or expansion or renewal comes, I can go back. And that's the really cool part about gamifying that and say, remember when you did this quickly, and here's, where the relationship started, and now here's where it ended. It just kind of ties the whole picture together. And it is a unique use case that I feel like CS teams can definitely relate to, but it is really important for the sales team too, to see those numbers and kind of high five each other when we're seeing that customer, that new customer really become a partner.
Yeah, to echo, I've got a different answer, but I also want to echo what Dana's saying here. I think what we use is our whole company is a part of the SalesScreen platform. It's not just the SDR organization or the AE organization or the customer success organization. We also have our developers in there. We have our executive team in there because it's a celebration tool in one capacity, right? Like everybody's involved. Everybody at the company is working toward making the company more successful. It's not just the sales team, and it's not just the SDR team or the customer success. So we all work together, and being able to celebrate and like and comment and support each other, I think, is a really big focus of us as an organization. But to the other use case that I think is somewhat non-traditional, but becoming more useful, is that what we recognized inside of our own organization is that we were not leveraging outreach all that well. And what we found is like AEs they've got a pipeline. We have to contribute a certain percentage of our own pipeline through field sales sourced opportunities. And we were not prospecting as much as we wanted to or needed to. And we were seeing that the SDR organization was doing a huge volume of activity, but not booking as many meetings as they needed to. And so we did some investigation into some outreach activity. And what we realized is that people were not adding people into sequences. They were doing too much of one-off behavior and then losing track of what was going on. So they weren't staying organized in their outreach effort. And then they weren't completing sequences. They were just getting distracted or moving people into different areas. And so what we did is we looked at our integration into outreach. We figured out that we can track the granularity of sequence activity. And so we started running competitions based off of adding contacts to sequences, actually measuring that and featuring it on leaderboards and having competitions around it. And then we also started tracking and competing on sequence completion and raising visibility into what percentage of your sequences are completed with replies or no replies, what the average stage is that your contacts make it to in a sequence, to elevate the use of our outreach platform. And whether using outreach with sequences or cadences inside of SalesLoft, it's the same concept in both of those. But the point that I'm making is that we had to get more granular in the activity flow to make a change in the overall behavior. And so it's not just let's celebrate and gamify booking meetings. It's the beginning part. It's the process part of that, which we're really, really starting to explore. And now that we've done it for ourselves earlier in this year, now we're starting to educate and help our customers actually take it to that level as well.
I love that.
I'm gonna steal that one, Matt.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I was already thinking about gamifying on-time steps in SalesLoft. We've noticed that as like a leading indicator of how well somebody's going to do with a cadence. And we've made it a focus for some of our inbound reps. Like, are you it's great to put people in cadences and reach out to them, but are you actually making the phone call the day you're supposed to? You're sending the email in lockstep with the cadence, and you can measure that through on-time steps. So we've been thinking about that, but you you got my gears spinning on a couple more ideas.
Perfect.
Awesome. Cool. Well, want to drop another poll in here to kind of take us home. And as we're all thinking about what investments we're going to make and how we're going to drive our teams to success next year, is it building culture remotely? Is it keeping track of KPIs? Is it boosting productivity again? Or are we talking about training and coaching and adoption? And again, all of the above is allowed. Let's see. Let's see who's going to move. All the above, pulling ahead again. Productivity and performance still sticking their beak in there, but we're gonna keep it with all of the above. It's great to get the point of view of everyone. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, for Dana, Matt, and Dan, what would be the best way if folks have questions and want to learn more from any of you?
We can drop our emails or LinkedIn messages in the chat if that seems to be the best way. I'm fine with that, whether it's LinkedIn or if you guys want to email me directly. I'm happy to chat through any use cases or kind of just riff. I'm sure you guys could tell I'm personally thinking about like coaching and development is probably one of my biggest things this year as I think about conquering next year and what it means for the SalesScreen CSM team. So that one's probably the most top of mind for me. And the way that I connect them together is if I can coach and develop them, then hopefully I'll get more productivity and performance as well.
Awesome. How about you, Dan?
Yeah, I'm happy to chat anytime. Unlike Dana and Matt, I'm not going to try and sell you anything when it comes to this. But I'm always looking to expand my network and talk to other people that are in similar positions to I am, because I'll be the first to admit that I don't know everything there is to know about this world, and I think we're all still learning. So as you all perhaps start to implement gamification or just start to recognize opportunities, gaps, whatever it is, like I love having those kinds of conversations with peers and colleagues. So I'll be more than happy to share my email address, and feel free to link in with me and start a conversation there as well.
Love it. Thank you all. Matt, any closing words to take us home?
I appreciate y'all joining. I think the discussion around gamification and how gamification can solve really just about any sort of problem or struggle that you have inside of your organization. It's really just simply the concept of focusing your attention on specific areas of your business and then making it more fun and engaging to tackle those areas of your business. It's really a simple concept that sometimes can get confusing. So I do appreciate y'all joining the time today. I also think you're going to see more and more about gamification. I think from our perspective, we look at it as a few years away from where conversational intelligence is and sales engagement is at this stage. So it's coming. It makes a ton of sense. It's easy to prove, and it has a dramatic impact on your business success. So we certainly, put our communication in the chat here for you. I'm sure Eric on our marketing team is going to be blasting away some email follow-ups for you all as well. So you'll know where to find us, but we'd love to just have a chat. Like, it's always interesting to talk to sales leaders about the cool stuff that they've got going on inside their business and ways that we can partner together to have more fun and make everybody more successful.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dana. Pleasure to work with you all, and everyone have a great day. This was enlightening. Take care.
Thanks for the opportunity. Take care, everybody.